All right. I'll really try to get to Texas.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the Texas Lottery Commission to order. Today's June 21st. It's 10 a.m. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. All of our commissioners are here, and we'll begin.
Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
Okay. Again, good morning, everyone. We are going to go into executive session to start the meeting, and then we will be back shortly.
And for the purpose of receiving legal advice and discussing personnel matters.
Okay, we will be back shortly. Okay, we are back. Texas Lottery Commission is out of executive session at 10:30. We do have some action items to take. Is there a motion? Cindy.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the employee performance evaluation for LaDonna Castanuela and a 4% salary increase effective July 1st, 2023, and approve the employee performance evaluation for Gary.
Second. Okay. Is there a? All right. So good. Good job. Call for a vote. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay. Motion passes. Congratulations to you both. All righty. First item on the report is a report from the Bingo Advisory Committee. Trace Smith, this is your item.
Sure. Good morning, Commissioners. Commissioner Fields, Chairman. We had the BAC meeting yesterday, and I'm pleased to report that the bingo industry passed probably the most important bingo bill in decades. SB 643 will help charities grow and hopefully prosper with the proper management and oversight. In the bill, there was also a lot of cleanup language for the staff at Lottery. We would like to thank LaDonna and Nelda for helping us with this on the language that we used. They were a huge help this session, actually the whole staff. So we definitely want to tip our hat to them. Thank y'all very much. Next, the Bingo Advisory Committee recommends that Stacy Johnston be appointed to the Bingo Advisory Committee to fill the vacant position. Stacy is well qualified and has been in bingo for about the past 20 years. She received a unanimous vote from the BAC to be nominated. So we ask that you approve her for appointment to the Bingo Advisory Committee. And lastly, the Bingo Advisory Committee will begin working on our year-end report and our work plan for next year. These reports will be presented to you at the next Texas Lottery Commission meeting in August. The commissioners will also get to vote to extend the BAC for another year in August. Continue my report.
Okay, commissioners, any discussion? Is there a motion to approve the new BAC member?
I'd like to make that motion.
Okay. Second.
Second.
Okay, Cindy is completed the motion. We have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Items 3 through 6 are contract matters. Angela, this is your item.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. For the record, my name is Angela Skyby Sagarba, Director of Administration. Item 3 in your notebook is an action item. Staff is seeking commission approval to extend our current contract with McConnell and Jones for internal audit services for a 1-year period. Commissioners have independently confirmed they have no financial interest in McConnell Jones. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, Commissioners.
Okay, Commissioners, any discussion? Is there a motion to extend the internal audit contract?
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes.
Item 4 in your notebook is a briefing item. The first one is to advise the commission staff's intent to issue the request for proposals for website hosting services. The anticipated term of the contract is a 3-year contract with two-year renewals. The next item, working through the State Office of Risk Management, staff intend to acquire insurance for the purpose of managing retailer bonus payments for the Mega Mans and Powerball games. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, Commissioners, comments, questions? Nope. Thank you, Angela.
Item number 5 in your notebook is also a briefing item and is to advise the commission of staff's intent to enter into a promotional and sponsorship program with the National Medal of Honor Museum Foundation. The contract will allow the Texas Lottery the unique opportunity to participate as a founder in the museum. The term of the contract is anticipated to be execution through August 31, 2032, with some of the sponsorship benefits living in perpetuity of the lifetime of the museum. Staff intends to have a museum representative present in the office commission meeting to provide additional information. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Commissioners, any questions? Thank you.
All right. And lastly, item number 6 in your notebook is a briefing item and is to advise the commission of staff's intent to extend our current contract with DK Partners PC for lottery drawing CPA services. The extension will be for a 1-year period beginning September 1, 2023. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions? Okay. No. Thank you very much. Do we need? Okay, next item is a report on lottery sales and revenue. Kelly and Robert, your item.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kelly Stuckey, Controller for the agency, and with me this morning is Robert Trelawney, our Lottery Operations Director. And we'll be providing an update on sales through last week or ending June 17th, 2023. So looking at this first slide here, we'll see that through this 42-week period, total sales there at the bottom of the slide for fiscal year 23 are $6,914 million. That's an increase of over $366 million or 5.6% over the last year's fiscal year 22 sales at the same time, which were $6,548 million. Then looking at the scratch ticket sales, those are reflected in the orange bars there. Fiscal year 23, we have sales of $5,420 million. And so that is a 24.1 million or just 0.4% increase over our fiscal year 22 sales. So due to our strong draw sales this year, our scratch sales are making up 78.4% of our total sales. Compared to last year, we were at 82.4% of scratch compared to draw this year. So then moving on to the blue bars, our draw sales, fiscal year 23 draw sales are $1,494 million, and that is a $342 million increase or 29.7% over last year. Last year at this time, we had $1,152 million in draw sales. And so now I'll turn it over to Robert to discuss by game.
Thanks, Kelly. Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. There's the slide. Okay, so this is our sales results through last Saturday, June 17th. This is all good news. Our draw games are up almost 342 million. You can see that on the orange line. The bulk of that gain is coming from the jackpot portion of the portfolio. We've talked a lot about this over the past year, but we've had a very successful year in terms of jackpots across all of the jackpot games. The only thing that's really changed since we were last together was the roll on our Lotto Texas game. That jackpot climbed up to $95 million. That was for the Saturday, April 22nd draw. And that was the third highest advertised jackpot in the history of that game. So it's the first draw game we ever launched back in November of '92. So, you know, it's 31-year history. So it was an impressive jackpot size for Lotto Texas. You can obviously see the $63 million gain we're experiencing this year compared to last. And even the add-on feature Lotto Extra is up $11 million. So great results there. Again, the whole rest of the jackpot portfolio is up because of the Powerball and Mega Millions jackpots we've been talking about this fiscal year. The blue font, excuse me, in the middle of the slide are our daily games. The only game that's down is Pick 3. It's down a little bit over 5 million. The other games in that portion of the portfolio are making up for that difference. And the daily games are up $1.1 million. Again, that's what gives us our draw games total of a gain of almost 342 million. Scratch is up $24 million. It's currently at $5.4 billion in sales this fiscal. And if we sum all of this up, we have a gain of $366 million. I've mentioned this before, we're getting closer to this time period though. At the end of July, we'll have really tough comparison weeks compared to this time last year because we had a $1.2 billion Mega Millions jackpot at the end of July. So we'll see what plays out over the next 8 to 10 weeks with our jackpots and see how those weeks compare. Like I said, we're going to have some tough comparison weeks. So either in August or when we do our end of the year report in October, you know, that draw games surplus, we expect it to be a little bit less than what we're seeing now. Last thing I have for you today in closing is just a note. IGT Texas is currently monitoring very closely the potential UPS strike. IGT uses UPS to ship all of our scratch tickets to over 18,000 plus lottery locations. So there's a potential strike right at the beginning of August, and they're putting plans in place, and we're working closely with them to beef up inventory levels in the field at retailer locations in the month of July, just in case that strike does happen. So I just want to let you know about that before we get into our next meeting in August. And that's our sales report for today. We'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions, comments? Yeah. Great job. Continue. Okay. Next item is a report on transfers to the state. Kelly, this is also your item.
Yes, sir. Commissioners, a report in your notebook for this item is the agency's accrued revenue transfers through April 30th, 2023, and that reflects a 1.39 billion transfer to the state through the end of April. However, we did just last week wrap up our May transfer, so I wanted to go ahead and give you those updated numbers. So for this 9-month period, we've transferred $1,586 million. 1.5 has gone to the Foundation School Fund, 20.2 million to the Texas Veterans Commission, and then the remaining 66.7 million came from unclaimed prizes. So for the Foundation School Fund, this is a 10.7% increase over last year, or 145.4 million. And overall, this gives us a cumulative transfer to the state of 37.2 billion. Commissioners, this concludes this item unless you have.
Okay. Any comments, questions? Okay. Kelly, thank you very much. All righty. Next item is a report on the legislative session. Nelda, this is your item.
Morning, Commissioners. For the record, I'm Nelda Benigno. I'm the Director of Governmental Affairs. I'll be providing an update regarding the 88th regular legislative session and the outcomes related to the agency. I'll begin with the Appropriations Bill, House Bill 1, the state's budget for the next biennium. Final actions and provisions specifically related to the agency include the following. The approval of the agency's exceptional item request for the authority to increase the funding for lottery scratch ticket production, $17.4 million for fiscal year 2025. The restoration of the decreased funding that has been approved as it relates to the funding for the regulation of bingo. The lottery's annual advertising budget being maintained at $10 million, and a wider provision originally adopted by the Senate and with the intent of directing the agency to prohibit the activity of third-party lottery courier services operating in the state was included in Article 9 of the Appropriations Bill. The wider language in Section 17.36 states, and I quote, "The Executive Director of the Texas Lottery Commission shall not allow the order, purchase, or sale of lottery tickets by telephone, including facilitating the sale of tickets via an application on a phone," end quote. The governor signed the appropriations bill on June the 18th and issued a proclamation related to House Bill 1. Included in the proclamation is a statement related to the rider provision, which states, and I must note that Section 17.36 of Article 9 is unconstitutional. 17.36 refers to tell the Lottery Commission that it must issue a new rule on a particular subject. This attempts to make general law in the General Appropriations Act violates Article 3, Section 35 of the Texas Constitution. A similar command to the Lottery Commission was proposed in Senate Bill number 1820, but the legislature did not pass that bill, end quote. The appropriation bill also includes an approved 5% increase to state employees' salaries this year, 2024, followed by another 5% increase in fiscal year 2025. The supplemental appropriations bill, Senate Bill 30, provides funding to allow the first 5% increase to begin next month, and the second 5% salary increase will occur on September the 1st, 2020. A few other updates on some additional bills that were also enacted. One that our Bingo Advisory Committee Chairman Trey Smith already referred to, Senate Bill 643 by Senator Judy Saccarini, again relating to the conduct of bingo. And to summarize, this legislation repeals the 750 prize limit per game. It increases the bingo occasion prize limit cap from $2,500 to $5,000. It increases the number of temporary licenses a regular license holder may request from 24 to 48. It changes the negative net proceeds evaluation period from 1 year to 2, and it includes several statutory cleanup and clarifying provisions requested by the agency. Additionally, House Bill 639 by Representative Jose Lozano was also enacted. This legislation increases the number of temporary licenses license holders may request in a calendar year from 6 to 12. Additionally, House Bill 1620 by Representative Justin Holland and Senate Bill 1659 by Charles Schwartner are two separate bills that relate to the Sunset Commission's review schedule of state agencies. While consideration was given to move the Lottery Commission sunset date, with the final provision included in House Bill 1620, the agency's sunset date remains at 2025, and the agency's sunset review process will occur during this upcoming cycle. The agency's legislative implementation project is now in progress, and the review of enacted legislation is occurring to identify implementation actions that will be required by the agency. Lastly, and for the record, Chairman Rivetta's gubernatorial reappointment to the Commission for a term to expire February 2027 was unanimously confirmed by the Senate. Congratulations, Mr. Chairman. This concludes my report, and at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Gary and additional comments.
Thank you, Nelda. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. You heard in Nelda's report this morning information regarding the rider that was placed in Article 9 regarding lottery couriers. And you also heard about the recent proclamation that was issued by the governor regarding the constitutionality of that rider. Further to the lottery courier matter, and as you are aware, there was much discussion during the legislative session by members of the legislature, by members of the media, and others regarding the commission's position regarding lottery couriers. There were also discussions regarding the agency's authority over lottery courier activities, as well as statements that were made about the rulemaking actions taken in the past by this commission. I believe it's important that we make a very clear record regarding the agency's position regarding couriers, as well as address any potential misinformation that may be out there in the public domain regarding this commission's rulemaking history insofar as it does or does not relate to courier activities. So I've asked our general counsel, Bob Beard, to provide a report to you today on this matter. And with that, I will turn it over to Bob.
Thank you, Gary. I'm Bob Beard, General Counsel. Commissioners, as the governor's proclamation indicates, the rider language is based on SB 1820 by Senator Hall, which did not pass last session. At the April Commission meeting, I said that the Commission's limited jurisdiction under the State Lottery Act does not include the activities of third-party courier services. I want to add now that last session, the Senate Research Center, which according to its website, it provides objective research and information to the Texas Senate. In its analysis of the committee substitute to SB 1820, confirmed this view. In its analysis of SB 1820, the Senate Research Center said that third-party couriers are not comprehended in current law.
Bob, can you speak a little louder, please?
Sorry. Want me to start over?
Please.
Okay, sorry. The governor's proclamation indicates that the rider language is based on SB 1820 by Senator Hall, which did not pass last session. At the April Commission meeting, I said that the Commission's limited jurisdiction under the State Lottery Act doesn't include the activities of third-party courier services. And I want to add that last session, the Senate Research Center, which provides objective research and information to the Texas Senate, in its analysis of the committee substitute to SB 1820, confirmed this view. In its analysis of SB 1820, the Senate Research Center said that, quote, third-party couriers are not comprehended in current law. Now, during the agency's appearance before the Senate Finance Committee, and when SB 1820 was considered by the Senate State Affairs Committee, some erroneous public statements were made during these legislative hearings that the Lottery Commission improperly amended its rules in 2015 and 2020 to allow courier transactions to occur. And some similar statements about the commission rules were made during the Senate floor discussion on the appropriations bill. As Gary mentioned, we want to take this opportunity to make a clear record and address any misinformation in a public setting. To be very clear, from the Commission's understanding of how courier services work, the Commission's rules, including the 2015 and 2020 changes, do not in any way authorize or condone lottery ticket courier services in Texas. The 2015 rule amendments provided players with 2 additional ways to provide their draw ticket game numbers to a licensed brick and mortar retailer. The first was using a previously generated draw game ticket, and that was for players who are using the same numbers. And the second was generating a QR code of their numbers using the official Texas Lottery mobile app, which allowed the licensed lottery retailer to scan the code to get those numbers. The commission at that time addressed potential concerns regarding generation of a QR code on the Texas Lottery app in the rule preamble and clarified there would be no ability for players to purchase lottery tickets or play lottery games on a mobile device or the internet. And the discussion prior to the vote to publish the proposed amendments at the May 28th, 2015 commission meeting expressly addressed this issue. The lottery operations director at that time stated in response to questions from Commissioner Lowe, quote, "There will be no sales taking place via the mobile application. The sales transaction is exactly the same as it is today. The player has to interact with the retailer or one of our retail sales devices in order to conduct the sales transaction to purchase their tickets." So that's not a change. It's really just the difference between providing a paper play slip or presenting their phone with the QR code that will allow them to submit their play selections to the retailer. So that was the 2015 rule changes. The 2020 rule amendments made no change to the prohibition on selling tickets by phone. And that prohibition still appears 3 places in the commission's rules. The amendments in 2020 were non-substantive and did not change the requirement that all lottery tickets must be purchased in person at a brick and mortar licensed lottery location. The term, quote, "present at the terminal" was formerly a definition in the rules, but it only appeared one other place to address customer service requirements, and it was deleted because those requirements were already adequately addressed. The only place this term appeared was in the general draw game rule at 401.304B1, which following those amendments is now 401.304B2. And that section addresses a retailer's customer service obligations. The rule said, and still says today, quote, "Retailers must give prompt service to lottery customers present and waiting at the terminal to purchase tickets for draw games." So that change had nothing to do with the location of the sales transaction. The deletion of similar language in the following section of that same rule was also non-substantive and redundant of existing rule language that clearly requires the sales transaction to take place entirely at the retail location. Today, that rule, which is 401.304B3, continues to state, and I'm quoting here, "Draw game tickets shall be sold only at the location listed on each retailer's license from the commission. For purposes of this section, the sale of a draw game lottery ticket at the licensed location means a lottery transaction in which all elements of the sale between the retailer and the purchaser must take place at the retailer location using their terminal, including the exchange of consideration, the exchange of the play slip if one is used, and the exchange of the draw game ticket." So in closing, and to emphasize 2 points once again, first, the commission's limited jurisdiction under the State Lottery Act does not include the activities of third-party courier services. And second, the commission's rules, including the 2015 and 2020 changes, do not in any way authorize or condone lottery ticket courier services in Texas. And commissioners, thank you, and that concludes my report.
Okay. Gary, do you have any follow-up?
No, sir.
Okay. Commissioners, any comments?
Thank you, Bob.
I think it's, if I'm on here, I think it's clear that there's some things for us to look through and seek your counsel on as we look to implement legislative action and gubernatorial action. And we look forward to the next, month or so of reviewing that with you and coming to a consensus here at the dais.
Any other comments? Elda, Gary, Bob, thank you very much. Definitely, it's a lot of information there, and so we appreciate your concise efforts and providing us with accurate information. So thank you.
I do want to add that this was a good legislative session, so we thank you for that work. I know these are hard. I know they take a lot of just lots of footwork, and we're thankful, particularly on the bingo activity, LaDonna, from your side, and Nelda, your team. I think we're in a much better shape. Terrible bingo in the state now too. So thank you guys for the hard work.
Thanks for those comments. We've got great leadership and great team. So thank you.
Okay, good job. Next item is a report on the agency's sunset review process. Ryan, this is your item.
Chairman and Commissioners, Ryan Mendel, I'm the Deputy Executive Director. This item relates to the agency's upcoming sunset review. I will have a standing item during these meetings while the agency undergoes that review. As a brief refresher, the sunset process in Texas state government works by setting a date which an agency is abolished unless the legislature passes a bill to continue it. Sunset staff evaluate the agency and issue recommendations for change. The Sunset Advisory Commission, which consists of 5 senators, 5 representatives, and 2 public members, considers the recommendations of the sunset staff, hears testimony, decides on a package of changes to bring to the full legislature. For timing, the first step will be a self-evaluation report prepared by the agency. That is due to sunset staff by September 1st, so just in a couple of months. After we submit our self-evaluation report, sunset staff will be reviewing the agency over the next year. The Sunset Advisory Commission must complete its recommendations by January 2025. Those recommendations will be considered by the full legislature in the 89th legislative session. This is just a high-level overview of the process, and it's just begun. I'll continue to keep you updated as we go through the process. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, commissioners, any comments, questions? Okay, Ryan, thank you. Thank you. Okay, next item is the commission policy on division of responsibilities. Bob, this is your item.
Thank you, Commissioners. Again, I'm Bob Bickert, General Counsel. This item is a recommendation to readopt Commission Policy P-002, which is titled Division of Responsibilities. It is a policy statement that's required by the agency's 2013 sunset legislation, and it delineates the policymaking responsibilities of the Commission and the management responsibilities of the Executive Director, the Bingo Director, and the Commission staff. The Sunset Commission requires a policy like this for all state agencies as an across-the-board recommendation. The Commission first adopted this policy in December 2013 and approved revisions in July 2016, December 2018, and June 2021. It's time again to review and approve the policy. We recommend no changes to the documents in your notebooks other than the new effective date. We recommend that the Commission readopt Policy P-002 effective today, June 21st, 2023. Happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, any questions, comments? Okay, is there a motion to approve the policy? Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, motion passes.
Commissioners.
Okay, next item is an internal auditor's report. Darlene, you're up.
Good morning, Rebecca. My name is Darlene Brown, and I'm your internal auditor and I'm Jones. I want to thank you on behalf of everyone for extending your support and renewing our contract for another year. In your notebook contains the status of our fiscal year 2023 internal audit plan. We've recently completed the business resiliency audit where we made internal controls as effective and is noted best practices. We will present that summary report to you at the next meeting. We also completed the quarterly network access testing and found no issues with individuals that have access, and you do not have anybody that should not have access to your system. Good job, everybody. We're wrapping up key vendor stock user control audit. And we just started the jackpot estimations. Over the next month, we will also begin our annual risk assessment, preparing our audit plan for fiscal year 2024. And we will bring that back to the next commission. Lastly, we've been closely monitoring the Texas Facilities Commission's implementation of the 8 recommendations we made to address weaknesses we identified in the security and infrastructure of the new facilities. We're happy to report that all the key recommendations have been fully implemented. This includes setting up the fire suppression system in the data center, adding additional security cameras in the data center in sensitive areas, providing the lottery with the building access reports they need, and activating the access controls and elevators. Although the Facilities Commission responded that they test generators each month, they still have, they're not full load tests, they do those once a year. And they have not provided the lottery with information on how long those generators can sustain operations. Recommendations to make key locks depending on cost estimate, but these are two minor issues that we believe have no major impact on operations. So this concludes my report for today, and I'm happy to address any questions you might have.
Okay, commissioners, any questions?
No, thank you, Darlene. I think your work probably made those changes in the securing of this facility and the move possible. I'm not sure, that's something that had been in our control up until now. And with this change in location, thank you for the push on that.
Yeah, Darlene, good job. Definitely grateful. Thank you. Okay, next item is the bingo director report. LaDonna, this is right.
Thank you, commissioners. Your notebooks include the output metrics for the office's work for April and May. I don't have any more to report today, but I am available to answer any questions.
Okay. Cindy, do you have any comments? Anything to add?
I do not.
Okay. Any other commissioners? Hey, thank you very much. All righty, next item is our executive director's report. Gary, your item.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Other than what's in your notebooks this morning, I did want to report to you that last week I attended a series of lottery industry meetings held in New Orleans, including the board meetings of NASPL, North American Association of State and Provincial Lotteries, MUSL, the Multi-State Lottery Association, which, among other functions, manages the Powerball game, and the Mega Millions Consortium, which obviously governs the Mega Millions game. Elections were held during this time for many of the officer positions in these organizations. Over the years, I've held the president or chair position for all 3 of those organizations, and I'm proud to say I'm one of only 2 lottery directors to have done that. But in the Multi-State Lottery Association elections held this year, I was approached and asked to seek the position of muscle chair of the Mega Millions game group, meaning I will be MUSL, the Multi-State Lottery Association's representative and liaison to the Mega Millions Consortium, which is a group of states that Texas is not a member of, but we obviously do sell the Mega Millions game. I considered that request and ultimately I said yes, and I was subsequently elected to that position last week. This will be an important role because in the immediate future going forward, the Mega Millions Consortium is looking at the current performance of the Mega Millions game and considering whether the time may be right to consider making changes to that game. Having had experience over the years making several game changes to both Mega Millions and Powerball, I'll be working closely with the Mega Millions Consortium to ensure that the interests of the 38 states in MUSL are appropriately represented in those meetings. This new role is also going to put me back onto the MUSL Executive Committee, and the term for my new position will run 2 years. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my remarks, and I will.
Commissioners, any comments?
Congratulations.
Yep.
Thank you.
I know we started our meeting with executive session, and that focus was on LaDonna and Gary and their performance review and Gary's upcoming salary increase. And just on behalf of our commissioners, we're incredibly grateful for Gary, your leadership, LaDonna, your oversight of bingo. Gary, you're doing a tremendous job, and clearly your new position shows the value that you have not only statewide but nationally. Your level of expertise and just really unprecedented understanding of what's going on here in the state is something that folks across the nation are grateful to have your insight and guidance on nationally. So we're definitely grateful for having you in the building and as the head of the lottery. So thank you for all that you do and that you bring to the table every day.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Okay. Next item is the enforcement cases. Bob, back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 15 contains 13 lottery cases and 2 bingo cases, tabs A through O. In cases, commission staff found the licensee violated a lottery or bingo statute or rule. And in most of these cases, either the respondent failed to appear at the hearing and it proceeds by default, or the staff and the respondent reach a settlement in the form of an agreed order. We have both of these types of cases today, as well as several cases that were litigated at the State Office of Administrative Hearings. And I do want to note that with tabs A through O, we have the final order. O was put in your notebooks as a litigated matter, and that case has reached a settlement. So O is being presented to you today for approval of an agreed order between the bingo unit and the commission staff. O was a matter that was considered at the State Office of Administrative Hearings along with tab N. Tab N remains a litigated matter, and we have 2 people who have signed up asking to speak to the commission, Mr. Stefanolio and Chris Keller. So I'll run through everything except for tab N, and if you want to go ahead and dispose of those, you can, and then we can have the commenters step up. Great. Tabs A through F are the non-sufficient fund cases. Each case was presented at the State Office of Administrative Hearings for revocation of the retailer license because the licensee failed to have sufficient funds in their bank account to cover electronic fund transfer commission's account. In each case, the licensee failed to appear at the hearing and the judge remanded the case to the commission to handle as a default matter. Tabs G through I are lottery agreed orders. They're in your notebook. Tabs J through M are lottery cases that went to hearing at SOA. 2 of these are non-sufficient fund cases, like the kind that you would normally approve all in a single order. But the retailers protested and they went to SOA for a hearing. And the judge recommended revocation in both cases. And the other 2 were default cases against a retailer. One was a debit card charge case where our commission investigator was charged an additional charge for trying to purchase lottery tickets with a debit card. And the other one of those cases was a case where a retailer purchased a winning ticket from a customer and to claim as their own. And as I mentioned earlier, N and O are bingo litigated cases. They were heard together. They involve a common set of facts. Tab N was a case involving the bingo worker, Monica Weber. Tab O was the bingo unit that had hired Ms. Weber to do work for them. The unit case has settled. It's now an agreed order. I can discuss that more if you'd like. But I provided that to each of you individually as soon as it was signed, and it is ready to be approved now. So if you'd like, you could go ahead and approve tabs A through M and O, and then we'll have public comment. Okay.
Is there a motion for approval?
I'll move that we approve as laid out by Bob. Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And now Mr. Fanelli, I believe, would like to speak on Monica Weber's case.
Chairman, Commissioners, my name is Stephen Familio. I'm an attorney in Austin, and I'm here to represent Monica Weber. Licensee in this proceeding. Ms. Weber has been on the worker registry since created in 2003 and has not had licensing problems before. I think it's common sense in our great state, great country that we have, that a person has a right to have employment. In my summary case, it states that. As a part of that, in a contested case like this had, a person should have competent counsel. I started this case in January of this year. The case had already been tried. I was retained and filed a motion for rehearing in April of this year. What I discovered, I've referenced some of it in the summary, is that the counsel Ms. Weber had was inadequate. He wanted to respond to discovery requests. We lawyers have a procedure called a request for disclosure. Counsel for the commission employed it and said, identify your witnesses. Fortunately, Ms. Weber's client didn't, or counsel didn't identify any witness. When that person tried to call a witness, Mr. Chris Keller, counsel for the commission appropriately objected, said he hasn't been identified, and I moved to prohibit him from testifying. The ALJ, administrative law judge, properly granted that motion. So Mr. Keller's testimony would be directly relevant to the proceeding in this matter. But because of inadequate counsel, Mr. Keller could not testify. Counsel for Ms. Weber at the time didn't even identify Ms. Weber as a witness. I've been practicing law since '85. First 4 years of my career, I worked for a very large firm in Austin, was the Texas Lawyers and Insurance Exchange, legal malpractice. And so I worked with a senior partner on that in a dozen cases. And I know legal malpractice when I see it. And to not respond to a request for discovery and identify witnesses, to me, is classic. He did not even seek to introduce any evidence to rebut the allegations of this proceeding. He didn't depose the commission's witnesses to determine what their position would be in this case. So he's on the fly hearing the testimony for the first time. What we're asking for is a motion, is a request to reopen so we can have address issues in this case. And I believe, confident that upon reopening, a lot of the evidence will come out that will show that Ms. Weber did not money launder, Ms. Weber did not steal, that the seminal issues in this case that the ALJ appropriately found, because no evidence on Ms. Weber's behalf that a perpetual inventory log was not kept, for example, that reports were not kept. And we would ask that it be reopened so that a fair hearing can occur. And the counsel who represented Ms. Weber has been terminated. He will not be. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Weber works. She
came to work in 1997 when we first opened Alamo Hills Bingo. As we hired her as manager, and she's been manager ever since, and the only manager that they've ever had. I can tell you today that the purchase logs were kept appropriately. If I'm not mistaken, the bingo division, the form that they have to keep those records on came from me, as well as several other forms that we use. But those logs were kept daily. And the pool tabs that are in question, that I think Ms. Weber, that were sold and she stole the money from them, those tabs were destroyed due to mold. There was a leak in our storeroom and they got mold. There was probably 300 boxes, if I remember right, and 20 to 25 cases of paper that had mildew and mold on them, and those were destroyed, taken to the dumpster. I can also say that for Monica to have done what they're accusing her of doing, there would have to have been minimum of 3 other employees involved in the scam. Well, that's a lot of voices. It would have leaked out. We would have been able to tell. And if that was happening, I would have been able to tell, and I would have fired her a long time ago. I can tell you that she did not sell the tabs and steal the money. I did.
Where did you drive in from, sir?
San Antonio.
San Antonio. Well, we definitely appreciate you coming to speak to us. Commissioners, any other comments?
No.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Bob?
I mean, the only other thing I would offer is, if you'd like to hear anything from the commission staff, the attorney who's on the case is here available to answer any questions.
Commissioners, any questions, thoughts? Okay. So
Your discretion.
motion.
It seems to me that there's no harm in allowing it to be retried or whatever the term is. And I make a motion that we allow that.
Second.
Fully agree. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you all very much.
So just to clarify that the vote to remand the case back to the State Office of Administration.
Correct. So that the request of those who spoke is made.
Thank you, commissioners.
Okay.
That concludes my presentation on the enforcement cases.
Okay. Is there any other?
Yes, there is. I received no other requests to make public comment, so I think you're good.
Okay, so no other public comment. Okay, before we wrap up, we know that, this legislative session, like all, it is a lot of moving parts, a lot going on. It's a very dynamic time of year, and we, all of our commissioners, are incredibly grateful from this dais to all of our employees that helped to get us through this legislative process. Nelda, tremendous job. I don't see you, but oh, there you are. But just great job in helping to navigate all of our employees. You as the lead there on that legislative effort. So we're definitely grateful. Commissioners, any other comments?
No.
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.